Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this 58th SoConnect Data session. My name is Martijn Keizer, data engineer at Sogeti, and I will be your host for tonight. This evening, we will dive into the world of working agile. The IT landscape is changing at an increasingly fast pace, hence, being able to adapt to such a challenging environment is crucial for a business to stay relevant. To cope with these challenges, many businesses propagate to have adopted an agile way of working. But the question is, do organizations really work in an agile manner, or is it just another buzzword they use for marketing purposes? And should every organization and project even be done in an agile way? Tonight, Maarten Veldhuis will provide a deep dive into the world of agile. Not only will he provide us insights on what true agile working is and what challenges arise when aiming for such an agile way of working, but on top of that, he will give a clear guidance on how to adapt an agile way of working and argue that working agile isn't a goal that an organization should strive for, but rather a tool to achieve a certain goal. Finishing off, there will of course be time for a Q&A at the end of the session, so please make sure that you either write down your questions or put them in the Teams chat immediately, so that we can discuss these questions at the end of the session and make this an interactive one. Okay, before we start, please mute your mic and leave your webcam on. And once again, use the chat option in Teams for your remarks during the sessions. And we will be recording this session, and the link will be made available for you as well after the session. That being said, have fun, and Maarten, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martijn, for inviting me and lending me the opportunity to have a little talk about Agile. At first, let me introduce myself. I'm for a few years now Agile Quality Coach at Sogeti. And before that, I think I had two great companies where I've experienced a lot about two things having to do with IT development and operations. And it was that at a big bank, I was a process manager and specifically for the incident process. And there I learned that in case of a big incident that I needed to manage for the board of directors, I was delegated for, with the specialists that working in a very small group, having focus on that there needs to become something clear about what's going on and what the solution will be, working in short iterations, sometimes for 1 or 2 hours, getting back together and having focus on solving the problem, and then communicate about the solution and what to expect and when it will be finished, was key to have an organization that had trust in the team that was solving it and working in short iterations and coming back together and reset the focus if needed, was working very good in those situations. Then Agile was introduced more than 10 years now, and I became a Scrum Master and Agile coach, and I experienced the same effects on focus, small pieces of work, finish them, look at it, think something of it, and if it's not good enough, adjust it, or if it's better and you want to make it even better, well, do so. So that was the two things that I learned there. From there, I went to work as an IT manager in a hospital. And the biggest takeaway there was people who are very good at their jobs and, for instance, helping people getting better are not maybe the best users of IT software. So your functional support and key users are key to have a good user experience, because you can build the best tool ever, but if you're not able to support it, well, then it will backfire immediately and the operation can't run with it. So that's a short introduction. For today, what will we do? I'll give a short recap on Agile and the types of challenges that you can experience. And like you said, Martijn, not everything might be fit for an Agile approach. So how do you recognize it? And we will slowly work our way to the Agile Launderette. So let's get started. I have picked some pointers that are familiar. And if you recognize these when you're talking with a company, Agile might be a good way to approach your product or your company evolving. For instance, if you're sitting with a client, well, I need a faster time to market. I want a fast customer feedback. I want to improve my predictability. Agile might be the way to go. So those must be the buzzwords that you think, hey, it triggers. I can maybe introduce Agile. Let's go dive further into that. What Agile mostly does, it helps you focus on what's necessary for your product, for your organization to set its growth, to make it the goals possible, and to make the product that it's needed mostly. You need to also have a very good ambition, and the most used framework within Agile, and it's also named almost in one breath, is Agile Scrum. So what is, I think, the most important thing you can learn from Scrum is that the three pillars they always say is the transparency, the inspection and adaptation phase is be totally clear of what you're doing and show always what you've done. Inspect it, think something of it, and if you want to change it, so do so. Because Agile is in theory not that difficult. It's only 4 Agile values and 12 Agile principles, but further on you will experience that it's always quite a challenge to keep it that simple and stay in that right phase. So also within Scrum you have an evolvement there, because we also know that products are more complex, companies are more complex, and you need to work with teams together. So also we're going to hit a little bit about the SAFe framework. You work together to have the best, to make the build the best value ever for that's needed. So we'll get maybe later into that. If you want to look at the type of work and what is the fit for Agile, it's said that if you have a complex challenge, so far from agreement, far from technology, far from certainty, technology and requirements, you want to find it out along the way. They said it's an empirical way of looking at your challenges. And like I said before, I was incident manager, and then when something occurred, it was most certainly always starting in the chaotic field. And the first thing you want to do is go as fast as possible from the top right to the left below corner to fix it as fast as possible. But that is in an incident way. You need a different approach. You need a different kind of management there. But if you want to find out and to experience with your business what is the best solution for your challenges, well, then you are most certainly working in a complex environment. You know about what you want, you know what the challenges are, but you're going to find out with your business and with your IT how to do that. And then an Agile way and a Scrum framework to use it is a good way to do it. Like a little example, I want to have a short story that happened to me 4 weeks ago. I went sailing on this exact sailing boat with Peter Wanders, and he is a multiple world champion in the Flying Dutchman class. And this J70 boat, we were taking for a short sail journey along a lake, and something occurred because what happened was in 2 phases, and I think that's metaphorical for Agile or not. And if it's a standard way, you might not need to go in an Agile approach. When we let the boat into the water, 2 things happened. First, we drove the car back from the ramp into the water on the trailer, and that was done over 100 times, maybe 200, maybe 1,000 times before. So it was very clear what needed to be done, how to look in the mirrors, and when you're almost in the water, you get the trailer from the tow bar, you put a rope between the tow bar and the trailer, and you drive even further back, and then the boat floats in the water, and then you can set sail. But that all went well, and there was no challenging thing in that phase. But then at the moment the boat hit the water and started to float, something happened that never happened before, because someone has borrowed a pulley and didn't pull it back. So I don't know if you can see the mouse, but here's a crane, and that wasn't attached to the keel. So what happened? The keel fell straight down the boat, and because there was also a rope through the same hole, it got stuck in a very bad way. So at that point, we experienced something that we have never experienced before, and we were with two quite technical people on the boat, and so we had to figure out, what do we do? Well, at first, you think, well, I'm a strong man, I can pull it out myself, but that wasn't possible because the thing weighs 285 kilograms and it was stuck in a very bad way. So in 2 or 3 iterations, we managed to use the main sheet. We've removed all the pulleys that we could find on a boat, and it took over an hour, but we made a construction with the pulleys and the main sheet that we could finally lift the keel from a stuck position into the free position, and we could all fix the things, and we could set sail. So I think that's metaphorical for what do you experience and what could be the solution. So that is a little illustration for that. But if we look at it from a company's way, I think what do we need most? If you look from if a company needs to go in an agile way, we need a clear business goal and a clear ambition. What do you want to challenge? And if you have companies that want to challenge the status quo, want to improve themselves, want to be better or different than the rest, well, then you must address it and maybe introduce agile. And I think a very good example for a clear business goal and ambition for something when it was set in 1962 and they didn't know what the implications or the effects were an address of John F. Kennedy, and he said, we choose to go to the moon, and we choose to go to the moon in this decade to do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard. I think there's no better example of a CEO, a company leader, telling to explore something that has never been explored before, and you don't know what to expect, and you don't know what to do. But he said also, within this decade, we land a man on the moon and bring him back safe to on Earth. So that's quite an ambition, and well, if the CEO says it and he is willing to pay for the project, the approach, well, then you have to experience what to do. And then, and I looked it up at the internet. A week from now, 54 years ago, a man landed on the moon, and you know the story. So if we take that for as a starting point, so where can we challenge an organization? Where can we challenge the agility? And how do we do that? So if we look at organizations, I think you have 3 main parts where you can challenge. The first one is leadership. The second one is the teams that actually do the job. And the third one is the product. So if you look at leadership, I asked some people when I was working on this slideshow, well, who do you think the leader is? And someone said, well, the guy in the back with the cup of coffee. But I think this guy over here is most certainly the leader. Not because he is the front one, but he's taking all the risks. All the other guys are safely on his back, and he's willing to help everybody to his side of the ravine. But that's my interpretation. But what do leaders need to do? The leaders need to show the way. The do as I do, not do as I say. So show it's okay to make mistakes, learn from it, and go on. Tell if you're not sure of the way you go is the right way, but you want to experience it with your teams. Not only tell the people what your ambition is, but also what is very important for you, that you want your company to contain as a business owner. So like a social company, that we stimulate growth, that we want to have the best teams possible. Very important. But then again, if you have it for a product, for an ambition, you need to have a vision. Where do you want to take this company? Where do you want to take the products? And why do you want it? You got to have a very good story to let all the people in your company want to be part of the story. They want to be part of your transition, and they want to believe in your vision and the mission that you're willing to go through. And it's very good to have some goals. So you want to have to challenge the teams to have some ambition goals, so they can relate to. And the goals relate to the vision, and the vision relates to the acting of the manager, the CEO, the company. If we look at the teams, what's very important is that you have a multidisciplinary team. You need to be able to do all the things as a team yourself, and you train. You train a lot. You don't only work from the backlog, but you try to become the best team possible. And that is that the things that you are good at, you keep on training to become better. And the things that you are not that good at, you train extra to become good at it. So that's the challenge. And you have a certain goal. You want to be Olympic champion, or you want to be the best product development team. Also is don't stay in the borders, but try something new. Try to make mistakes. Try to, what is the stretch of your team? What is the stretch of your product? So that you can be sure that you have tried what the limits are. And don't be scared to fail, because, well, it's the first attempt in learning, as it says, but it's also that the company needs to proclaim it's okay to make mistakes because we learn from it, and this is how we learned from it. And finally, you want to help each other to grow. Not every team member has the same ability. Not every team member is as senior as the other. And you need to help each other grow with the ambition you have as a team. Then we go to the product. I don't know if you recognize these, but these are the golden circles of Simon Sinek. And you need to know why you are building the product. So, as I said, a product owner may only say what they want to build, and the team decides how to do it. But you also need to understand. You need to help the teams understand why you are building it. I often say, if I say, well, please stop working, and what company value are you working on right now? You should answer exactly at the right moment. Well, I'm working on this product. We are helping to improve that bit of company value, and we hope to get to that level of value at that time. Secondly, experiment. Look what you can do with the product. Surprise your business partners. Help each other to try different ways of making some insights. For data instance, do you always need to use a certain tool, or can you use advanced analytics to make other insights? I don't know. Try it. And at third, the business and IT. I made a yin and yang for this one, because most times you see business and IT, they're quite a bit apart, and there is a product owner in between. But you need the IT to build it, and the business to willing to own it and to live through the product. And you have to think of it, something of it, and you want to make it better every time you work with it. And now we're getting at the Agile Launderette, because I think 3 questions are mandatory if you want to challenge the agility of your company, of your teams, and of your product. You can always ask yourself, what did we get? And if it's in a sprint, it's what did we get this sprint, and what can we do with it? If it's in SAFe, like in a PI, you have worked a quarter of a year with multiple teams on some value. Well, what did the business get? And a second question, I think, is asked not quite often enough, is what did it cost? What does it cost to let a team work a sprint, and how many euros, how many dollars was it? And then what did we get? And then you come to the third question. Well, what is the value that we produced? I think these questions should be asked and could be asked everything. I think if you do it every stand-up, it's too much, but it's very clear to ask it after a few sprints, and certainly after a PI. In a PI event, you must make it a central question. What did we get from last quarter year? What did it cost us, and what is the value that it delivers? And it's not only value in money, but also it can be more efficient, more growth of customers. You need to be sharp on that, and that's very important. And then the Agile Launderette. Why does it is the Agile Launderette? Because I think in leadership, you need to repeat this over and over again. Mostly you see that, well, we are working agile, so it must be good. No, it asks constant focus. Like I said before, it's only 4 values, 12 principles, but it's very important to repeat it over and over again. Like I said before in one of the first slides, if there's a certain trigger for a company that wants to work in an agile way, you have to ask over and over again, well, did you meet your expectations? Are you more agile? Do you have more customer collaboration? You need to be asking and keep asking the questions. Also for your teams, you have to challenge them. Are we still agile? Are we still working on the most valuable thing? Can we relate it to the business goals? And that also goes for the product. Are we adding real value? And what is the return on investment? And also the washing liquid. I think at first you need to put a very much agile washing liquid into the machine, because the companies and the people are, if they're changing from the traditional way of working to the modern way of working, they need to have a lot of agile support, because it's not that easy. And then again, at every level, you need to support the organization with the new ambition, because yeah, it's working completely the other way around. And then hopefully within a year, maybe if it's a small company, half a year, you don't need to add that much washing liquid into the machine, and you can maybe take a little bit of distance. All right, so some nice adding on that. If you look at the washing machine and the get, cost and value thing, on the 3 steps, like from leadership, you can always ask a leader, what's your moon ambition? Where do you want to take this company? What can it cost? If it's okay to that the money floats away and you are perfectly fine that you don't get the value that you asked for, well, then there's not that much agile to put it into the company, because it's okay. But if it really said, no, I'm having an ambition, I really want to make it within 2-3 years, help the focus. Like architects, don't make plans that are solid for the whole, like a data construct or a whole IT plan, but try to be agile and try to facilitate the teams to help them build their own best product, and don't write something down that needs to be put in concrete for the coming few years. Facilitate the teams, also work in sprints, help them. And the same goes with GDPR, privacy security. It's not a place where you go to and you ask permission to use the data, because if you can't use the data, it's worthless for a company. So help the teams improve, evolve in better data usage teams, so that they know what the regulation and rules are. And if they are a little bit bending the rules to make it possible to add the value with the data they want to do, think with the teams and help them to make the right steps to become the teams that own the responsibility. If you look at portfolio management or product management, help the vision of the leaders, or the company vision, help to translate it to clear epics and features for the product owners, and the relation between the teams. It's not that you write down a plan for the coming 3 years. Now you can help facilitate the right needs for the teams, and to adjust them so that all the teams work at the same quarter of a year on the same value. So that's another approach, and you're still doing the same things. You're still trying to make the best architectural software. You're still making the best software that is GDPR safe to use, but it's a different approach. If you look at the team, we all know that teams have superheroes. Those are the same people that are asked over and over again by the company or by managers, help me think with this or help me with that. Well, I think people that are having very much knowledge are very good for the company and for the teams, but you need to stop ask the same people all the same questions over and over again. Two things will happen. The people can't help the more junior or medior colleagues in their teams to grow because they're working on other things that they might not be working on, because those are questions other people need to be concerned with. And you will have them mostly out of the team instead of inside the team. A direct thing after that will be your growth mindset. Yeah, if people always knew, well, it's always so and so, they are asking those questions and they are never looking at us, that does something with the rest of the team. They start not believing in themselves. So it's very important to work to the growth mindset, to challenge people and to help them grow in their function and grow as a team. It's also very interesting if you see junior people. If you ask them the questions to help think with some problems and to help them, if you ask them to help you find a solution, you get a very other dynamic, and it's very good for both sides. If you invest in a team, you also invest in the growth of the team. So at the beginning, don't only be working from a backlog, but also stay working on the growth of the team. And it's not only growth on tools and knowledge, but it's also growth on how to be a best team member, how to have an open relationship with your colleagues. Finally, what you want to achieve is that a team experience the ownership, so that they're mandated, that they are empowered to do all the things they need to do for the product, and the product that is related to the company goals, and that you can always relate what you're doing with the company goals. And like I said before, train a lot and never stop training, because there are always techniques that are new, there are challenges that are different. There are other people that you meet and learn to work with. So it's very important to have also, besides of the work on the backlog, that you keep on training and making your people better. If you look at the product, first thing, stop making exactly the same thing that you did before. If you look at like if data comes from a certain place, like a central data warehouse in a company, and it goes to the cloud, and the first thing the organization asks, well, build exactly the same thing, but then the data comes from the cloud, so I can keep on doing my work as I did it before. That's not really an agile approach, and also not inspiring teams to make the best things for the company needs. So don't build exactly the same things that you have built before. Simplify. Don't try to make it all at once. Don't try to make big decisions, big dependencies on the data transitions or other complex things to your product. Try to make a simple product as possible, and challenge it also. What did you get from the product? What did it cost? And what is the exact value that you are adding on to the company's goals? Stay focused. What is often happens is that you have a shift of focus, and that you are working in a sprint or in a PI on multiple things together. What you see is that product owners are not owners of a product, but they are owners of a specific variety set of needs that comes from data, and that they have to build various sets of tools and insights, and that is not one tool what gives all the right information for the company. Also, what you hear often is, when can we use the product? if you ask for the business, the help from the business, and say, well, we want to only want to use it when it's finished. If that's the chemistry between your business and your team and the product, there's something wrong. So you need to address that also to your leaders. For it's not working. We're not building the right thing that's needed right now, because when it's finished, it's probably the same as we experienced before. It's not the right product that it's used for the challenges that we have. And finally, for your product, the value. It's always important to ask yourself, and I help my teams ask it every sprint, well, what's the value that we added? Do we know that it's going to make a difference? And sometimes, yes, it takes 2 or 3 sprints to really add the value to the production environment. But what did we make? What is it changing? And how do we challenge it? Almost the same as what did we get? What did it cost? And what's the value? But keep challenging your product and look at it at the goals from the company and if it's supporting them or not. Very important. So that said, that was my introduction to the Agile Launderette. Does anybody have a question?
Yes, thank you very much, Maarten. If you have any questions, feel free to either put them in chat or unmute yourself. I have a question to start off. We're talking about working agile, and suppose that at the company that I work for, I see the opportunity for a project to be approached in an agile way. Where should I start? Should I start hiring a Scrum coach or something like that, or should I start with stand-ups? Do you have a guidance on where to start with the implementation?
The first thing, if a company isn't used to working agile, I think, is to very clearly challenge the company's needs and what are the questions they are really asking. Because, like you said in your introduction, agile is often produced as a silver bullet. And if you say, well, my company works agile, you don't work agile. It's a mindset, and Scrum is just a framework. You need to. Why do you want to work in an agile way? And it's never a purpose on its own or a goal on its own. So, like the triggers I shown you on the beginning of the presentation, those must be the trigger words that will give you, well, okay, so you want to go agile. What are you? What are you as a leader? What are you as a company owner, CEO, willing to do for that? Because it's not just introducing an IT-driven framework, and how are you willing to help your business understand IT and understand the software product? So it's also, at first, how willing is the company, how able is the company to accept working in an agile way? Because if a manager wants to go in an agile way, but the people below and in the teams are thinking, well, that's not the way to go, it's not going to work. So at first you want to have the commitment from the highest level, I guess, because that's where the money comes from and that's where the fire starts. Like I said with Kennedy, we want to go to the moon. So what's your ambition? And then you have to find the right people to help you achieve the goals in an agile way, if agile is the way to do it. And then, yeah, maybe sometimes you have to hire people with a different mindset, a different way of adapting work, because that's also needed to make the change possible.
Okay, thanks. I do have another question if no one else already has. I see.
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Maybe just to. Sorry, I had a lot of questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, maybe to turn it around, Maarten. So, what would be projects where agile does not make any sense at all?
Yeah, good question. Well, I had a colleague who told me that for a company that he's working at, a tender was written, and some companies reacted, and the bid was ready, and the requirement set of the tender became his backlog. Well, I said, if it was that clear what you are exactly going to do. So back to the station matrix, if it's very clear what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, you don't need an agile approach. The agile is the approach that you're not very sure, but you have a clear goal, but you're not very sure how you want to get there. And if you look at what I said, the requirement set of your tender can never be a whole backlog, because you're always working from A to Z, from 1 to 100, and that's and you know what companies are going to say if you hire them to work from a requirements document, and if you want to make changes, they're going to say, well, that's going to cost you. So an answer of your question, if it's very clear at the beginning what you want to do and how you're going to do it, you don't need to go in an agile way.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
I have a question as well, Mark. Thanks for your talk. Good to hear this. But I'm curious, are there certain types of organizations where you feel that this agile way of working works better than with other companies? I can imagine, for example, I see a lot of companies adopting agile ways of working, where if you look at the organization itself, it's almost 20 years back in time. They could have worked the same way. The only thing they do is try to work in a networked way, and you still have all the hierarchies, all all the structures that are still there from 20, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, is there a possibility for those kinds of companies as well to adopt the agile way of working?
If there's a need, like I said before, if there's a need of going in an agile way because you're not very sure how to do it, but you need to, you know that you need to change. And companies that go on have been working for 30 years in a certain way and have a certain size therefore it's harder to adapt an agile way of working. Like I said, it's completely different. And if you adapt the Scrum framework, like the transparency, the inspect, and the adapt, and you look every 2 or 3 weeks of what you have done and how far you are and what you've reached, that could also be a very good way to work from like a requirements document. It's all about the transparency of your work and what you have achieved, and if you're still think you're able to make it within the set time. But the thing with agile is you don't know when it's ready. You know that you want to change and you want to add the most valuable thing to your product that you think is needed at a certain point of time. And that's very difficult, because if your company has a certain type of managers, like portfolio managers and developers that have been working in a certain way, it is very difficult. So there is a challenge needed, and I've said it and I've discussed it also with Eddie before. If you want to make a change, you have to not only hire an agile coach, a scrum master, or a data scientist. You need to hire a group of people that, next to helping you with your technical challenges, through the whole all the layers of the company, coach and help bigger companies to make the change and do the right things, like I said, with the challenges with leadership teams and product. So in answer of your question, what companies can adapt the best to agile? Small companies with a clear goal and teams that are fully able to do all the changes and take all the responsibilities for the product they run.
Thanks.
I see there's a question in chat from Eddie. He says, you state that senior leadership sponsorship is required for success. Why are a lot of companies having a hard time adopting it in full flesh? I see several companies struggling and making an own agile version.
Yeah, because it's very hard. Like I said, it's only if you print it small enough, it can be on one side of a piece of paper. 4 values, 12 principles. Those are the challenges you need to make, and every adaptation or change you make, is a potential pitfall for your organization. And if the most senior leader isn't quite sure if agile is a good way to go, well, then you maybe best stop starting. And then again, if you have good supporters that know how to ask the questions, not build me so and so, but help me challenge my my challenges that I need to have the best working software product for, or my company needs a new way of helping my people to know where to be in their working environment because they're working on a train. So which train do I have? If I have my my timetable, can I make my own adjustments? If you want to have a whole different approach on how to run your business, but you don't know how to do it, but you want to experience the best way, well, that could be a very necessary trigger to do so, and to challenge your organization and the layers below if you're talking CEO level, and also the layers above you if you're talking team level. Are we still doing the right things? So and then you need to have coaches and help all in the teams and on the different levels to facilitate those changes. Because how often do we see that an agile change is implemented in an organization in an old Prince 2 style project way? Practice what you preach, like I said before.
Yeah.
Do as I do. And that is very hard. So
I agree, Martin. Thanks.
I have another question, Maarten. The title of the presentation is the Sustainable Agile Launderette. What does make Agile sustainable? What is the sustainable aspect of it?
Well, the sustainable aspect of it is if you keep on asking the challenging questions. Are we still working on the most valuable product? Are we still working on the most valuable asset of the product? And do we all agree that we can implement this and that we can show how we make the return on investment? Or if we keep on asking the right questions to the teams, are you still able to do all? Can you take all the responsibilities that's needed to run the product in the right way? Are you able to do so? Is the product still challenging enough and making the best proposition for a company to make the differences in the way how we run our company? If you keep on asking the questions, you are very sustainable. You're asking very sustainable questions. Are we doing the right things with the money it costs? And do we get the right things for it? And can we challenge it? Not just give me some insight or a report so I can look at it, but how many people use the report? And what does it cost? What does the query cost? A lot of new tools can show you exactly what a query costs. Well, make the costs transparent and tell what the insight or the report costs for the company. And what do you do with it? I think you need to ask those questions and that's the big giveaway from Agile, is that you want to be fully transparent of what you're doing and what it costs. And that's, I think, something that we do not often enough.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask another question, is someone else still having any questions before I take up all the time?
Yeah, I said he was here. Just with Agile working, especially with IT, have had experience with RUP and with Agile, the Scrums. Basically, if teams works with the Scrum, so are we by default working Agile?
No.
That's one question. Okay.
No.
Because mainly what happens is that the company says, okay, we are from top. Of course, what I know is that the whole organization should say we are going to work Agile. It cannot be one team working, the other not. There will be conflicts. But if everyone is working Agile, what I notice is that we start working Scrum. And basically that's it, setting every 2 weeks what we are going to do, what's the planning for the next week. Depends, of course, on the product. And then after that, in 2 weeks, then we have a retrospective and to look at what we did, what went good, what went wrong, and so on, and plan again for the next 2 weeks. But rarely you get the question, the challenge, what did it cost? or what, because there was a request from the business or something that we need to deliver, this kind of things. It can be on more than one sprint, but rarely the challenge. So does it mean that the company actually is working in a Scrum way, but not Agile?
Well, to clarify that, yeah, you can work in a Scrum way by using the artifacts and the events, and you can be fully transparent about that. But Agile is not a way of working. Agile is a mindset. It's a different approach of looking at your company assets and your values. And if you ask yourself, when you have done a sprint, and I've done it, I've calculated what does this sprint cost, and at a certain point I said, well, it costs so and so on many euros, and it didn't really resonate. And then at a certain point I said, well, the cost of the sprint of this team is just as much as a Tesla Model S dual engine, blah blah. I don't know exactly which one it was. And every time the sprint is finished, we throw it from the building. It's on the bottom of the floor. It's broken in pieces. You can't use it anymore. And what did we get for it? So now they're calling me Mr. Tesla, but the thing is, you need to make a company aware of what things cost and what value do you get, and that's a kind of mindset that you not say, well, we have a project, it may cost 2 million, and when the money is gone, well, we ask the questions, well, what did we really get? And I'm really giving it a dark side of looking at it, but that's how many companies still work. You have a finance company, they look at big big costs, and Agile is also a big pile of money, and the teams cost so much. But I think if you are willing to land an Agile way of thinking, way of working mindset, you need to keep on asking these questions, because that's the basic of Agile. So if you work in Scrum way, you can have a very good retrospective. How did we work? Could we build the right things? Did we test it well? How did it go in production? Was it stable enough? All those things work very good with Scrum. But if you want to challenge the agility of your company, you need to ask the questions, well, what did you get? What you're going to do with it? What is going to make changes for the company? When did we have the return on investment? Or when, what may it cost, and what other values do we want to see for it?
Right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
To add to that, you said that you have to ask those questions. Who should ask those questions, and to whom?
Everybody. To everybody. Keep on challenging each other. And I think that if you work with professional consultants like Sogeti has, you can make agreements on that. If you work in the same company, align the questions, ask the questions in multiple places, challenge the companies where you're working for, of what was the plan of starting in an agile way of working. Well, one thing, you get a very transparent way of what things cost and what you're going to get, and what do you think of it. So everybody should be able to ask the questions to the CEO, to the how much money do you think you are, how much money do you think your team cost, and what do you actually deliver? I think it's a very healthy thing to ask. And well, if transparency is the way to go, well, that's the first thing I think, yeah, that you can ask questions for.
Just to add to that, what would be if it does not deliver the answer, the value? I see it's very difficult that the company takes a decision to move back from Agile, or I think they need to improve. Only they keep improving, but I've never seen they move out from Agile.
No, but that's what Martijn said in the beginning. Agile is not a thing to do because you want to do Agile. Agile is a shift in mindset that you want to stop building big things, and a year and a half later you want to check if it works. You want to taste it. You want to work with it. You want to smell it. You want to use it. That's what. And is it valuable? Exactly. Are we building the right thing? And that's what you need to challenge. Well, we built to sprint something for you. How are you going to use it? What are you going to do with it? And how much better or easier will your work be when using this new product?
Correct. That was the way we used to do prototyping. It's like you prototype, you test, you bring the business, check on it. With Scrum, it is like it was not said agile in the direct way, but it was an agile way, the same mindset. As you said, it's mindset. It doesn't have to be that the company labels itself agile, but it can be that working agile without knowing that they are labeling themselves as agile, especially when they are doing prototyping, working in Scrum way, because every 2 weeks you have a delivery, you have business who's interacting directly. In the past with the waterfall, I know what you mean. I've worked in a project for 1 year, and after 1 year it's working perfectly, but the business is not using it. Yeah, and then costs 2 million, 3 million, and so on.
Yes. And with Azure, you can ask yourself after you've spent 200,000, well, is there still a way to go? Nah, we're not going to build this anymore. We're going to make something else. Yeah, that's the thing. And also, I think it's very strange to see that when you have big companies and big IT projects, it may cost a lot. But if you ask the same people who are responsible for the budgets, well, if you build a kitchen or a bathroom and it goes in the same way as we are working now with our software, that we're not delivering the right stuff on the right time and we're not building the right bathroom or kitchen, are you as forgiving as you are now with the company's money? And I think those are questions that you can always ask someone, because we cost a lot of money, and what's the value you get back for it? And that's the thing with agility. You are fully transparent of what you've did, and you can ask the questions, well, now you've got it, what you going to do with it?
Right. Usually they put the challenge is done beforehand, before starting, that there will be a business case. Then basically the request comes from the business. That's my experience also with the Philips. The business, the question comes from the business, and then it's challenged in a board. What is the benefit? What's the value? What's going to bring with it? And then decided also with technicals if we can put it in the next release and so on, or in pieces or at once. So I feel the challenge is done before starting, not after. It has to be challenged.
And in what way you were saying it's
in a way, for example, you get a request as a bathroom to change the bathroom or to do something, then that will be challenged. Is there a need for it? What's going to cost? What's the value? So there is a big questionnaire for business when they put every person comes from business and puts a request. So it's not built directly, let's say, from IT perspective. I'm talking. So there is a challenge put on it. What's going to deliver? What's the value? So this is the questions is asked, the same what you said, but before starting. So that's not that after it's built to ask what did it deliver. Of course, afterwards it needs to have the question: did it deliver what was promised, and the value, and so on. But basically what I see is that the challenge is done before starting the build, say.
Yeah, but it's not before or after. You need a constant challenge of you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's right. But I
mean, we still doing the right thing that's adding the right value for the company?
Right, exactly. But I meant in a sense that before starting building, doing that thing, when the request comes in, which is basic for the change on the product, that's a challenge before starting in that way. You're right. Yeah.
But also the return on the challenge needs to be as short as possible. So that's what you said. That's why you have the sprints and your checks and balances. What did we build and how we're going to use it? That's also very important.
Yeah.
Martin, I'm wondering, how do you maintain the same level of quality over the different teams that you have? I can imagine that if you look at the value and the results you get at the end, like you have in the circle of your laundrette, you may focus only on the output, like the value that you get or the perceived value. But I can imagine that a lot of developers come in with a certain type of knowledge, and they use that knowledge because that's what they know. They bring that in, and that's value as well. But it might lead to different ways of coding, of testing, etc. How do you maintain that quality?
Yeah, like I said, if you prescribe, like for instance, an architect, exactly how your whole environment needs to look like, and that's your those are your borders. You need to stay inside those.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is that you get frustrated teams because they feel not able to make their own decisions. But if you are, as an architect, looking for the best choices, you need to be acting like the same way as the teams. Like accept a challenge that you maybe don't know what is the best way to build the solution, or what the environment needs to look like. But you have to accept that you need to find out on the way. And that's also a different approach. And then you ask for quality. That is always the responsibility of the team. And if you're building a very bad quality product and with a lot of technical depth, at a certain point the value will go from high to very low. So you need to help the teams to be aware of that as a quality issue, and there's you need to make sure that the quality is also maintained. And every time when you deliver new functionalities, the quality also must be checked. So that's a growth thing that you have to work on as a company, and it's more like the roles, like I also said, with portfolio management or with architecture or with the privacy security, need to be, I think, filled in different. You need to help coach teams because those are mostly the things they are not very sure of. But also one of the values is the best architectural solutions are made by the teams that are totally self-responsible for making their own best product. So that's what you need to facilitate as an architect, for instance.
That adds to the mention you did earlier, that you need to challenge everything all the time.
Yes.
And okay, good, thanks.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any final questions? If not, then I would like to thank you again, Maarten, and let's move on to the SoConnect Data Outlook, because this session was the last meetup before the summer break, but no worries, we will be back after the summer. And the first session is planned on the 7th of September. In this session, we will discuss the different ways and tools to prepare your data when using Power BI, what kind of functionalities are out there, and what use case is best for which tool. These kind of questions will be answered, so make sure to join that one. And on top of that, we also have another session planned the week after, on the 14th of September. Sustainable data volume management and data minimalization is a topic that will be discussed. Nowadays, storage seems to be unlimited available, and there is virtually no limit on how much data we can store. But we should be aware that there exists downsides to this unlimited storage. How sustainable is having this much storage, and what is the impact on resource consumption? These and other questions will be presented, so don't hesitate to join that session as well. For the entire planning of the SoConnect data sessions, please check out the SoConnect meetup page where all our events are posted. Feel free to join all sessions that you have your interest, and be sure to invite others as well. Furthermore, we also share our thoughts on data and AI-related technology and approaches on Medium. So feel free to have a look over there as well. All the links are posted in the Teams chats, so check them out. Lastly, I would like to thank Maarten once again for sharing his experience, knowledge, and best practices on the topic of Agile with us tonight. And of course, thank you all for joining. I'm looking forward to see you again after the summer holiday at one of our SoConnect data sessions. So have a great evening all, and enjoy your holiday. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks mannen. Dank jullie.
Dank jullie wel.